Okay, good afternoon, Facebook and YouTube. I know I haven't did a video in quite a while. This one is going to be a little bit different. It has absolutely nothing to do with all of these plants or my tanks. I do use my channel for different little things. Today I want to it's kind of like a tale of survival. It's a story of faith, and hopefully it can be a message of hope and inspiration. So I'm basically going to tell the story about me being fired from my job, but ultimately coming back as well. So it's I guess that's a spoiler alert. So in the end, good things did happen. But I guess I kind of would just, I'm an ex-preacher. A lot of people don't know this, but so when I do speeches, a lot of times I come up with titles or themes and I roll off of that. So the theme or concept for today is the stillness of a praying heart. And if I were to use the scripture, I would probably use I believe it's Proverbs where it says the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And I would also maybe use when it talks about the beasts of the field, how they labor not, nor do they toil, yet they are taken care of, and they're fed without worrying about how it's going to be done. So the title will be The Stillness of a Praying Heart. Now, just real quickly, okay, I gotta be careful how I tell the story because some things I can't really get into just due to the way that I did get my job back. I can't talk about certain things. So just long story short, I've been on my job for about 12 years, have a pretty good work history. I won't say 1,000,000% perfect, but I'm not a problem person. But I had ran into an issue where I became terminated. Now, a lot of times when people are fired from jobs, it can really throw you for a loop. It can mess you up. People lose cars behind this. Some people get divorces behind it. People's credits are ruined. People lose their cars. People lose their house. Now, in my case, God, and I will say God, I'm not ashamed to say that. I would say that the Lord looked out for me because He basically prepared me before any of this ever happened in more ways than one. Now, I would say probably I'd say about 2 months before, I'm looking at the time, 2 months before my little incident, I started feeling in my spirit that I needed to get back to saving. And when I say get back to it, that's because as a child, my dad taught all of us how to save. And the way that he did it was we had two savings accounts. One was a spending account, and then the other one was for savings. So every once in a blue moon, we would have no warning. We didn't know when. It could be maybe a year apart. It could be 10 days apart. You never knew. So when he would check, he would have it written down, and for each one of us, it was a different amount. Because one person might get 10 for savings, one might get 13, one might get 9, one might get 8. So he would tell us to call us out to the living room, bring out his little notebook, his little notepad, and be like, "Okay, what do you got?" Now, whoever had more than what they were supposed to, he would double that, and then we would get to spend that on whatever we wanted, which is how I got my first ever Nintendo game that I bought with my own money, which was Super Mario Brothers 3. So he's teaching us how to save, and he's teaching us the concept of also sacrifice. If you work hard, and do A, B, and C, you can get D, E, and F. Okay, that's how we were raised. But I had gotten out of that. As you get older, as an adult, different little things happen, and if you pay this bill, you can't pay that bill. If you do this bill, you can't do this one, and you find yourself in a bad position. So I would say, like I say, about a month and a half before I got fired, it was like God started really speaking to my heart. And let me explain something. People don't understand that. When you say that God speaks to you, a lot of people don't get it. It's okay for me. It's not like you actually hear a human voice. That's not really the way I would describe it. It's more like a superimposed thought pattern. Like it's like you'll think something out of nowhere, but it will be so strong and have so much authority to it. Like you can't really question it. Because it's such a strong force, and a lot of times it's not even really what you want to do or to be thinking at that time, but it'd be so strong, you're like, oh my goodness. So I tell people, I call it like the voice, or I'll say my spirit, or I'll say the spirit, but really it's just God Almighty, long story short. Or some people call it universal consciousness or a higher level, but either way you put it, it's God, okay, or the Almighty. That's what I say. And so he started putting in my spirit, save, get back to saving, get back to saving, get back to saving. So it was so strong in me that I'm like, I gotta do it, because I've had instances where I've been actually in a car accident. No lie, this is a 100% true story. Because I had a premonition and a thought and I didn't listen. So I learned the hard way. And then I've also had instances where I would feel my spirit to do something different, and it prevented a car accident. So when I hear this voice now in my spirit, I listen. So as it's saying save, I'm like, okay, no problem. So I started, little by little, I started changing how I spend. I stopped going out to eat so much. I started sometimes taking food to work more to try to save, and I didn't even know why I was doing it. So when my moment came, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. So the day of my meeting where I actually got terminated, I said a quick little prayer. And I'm like, Lord, am I going to be fired? Now normally I'll hear like something in my head like, oh, don't worry about it. Oh, such and such, but you want this. But this time around, I did not hear one single thing. I didn't feel nothing. It was just like, whoop. And for a person like me, who is able to hear things and able to sense and feel and perceive, the fact that I couldn't get anything scared the living daylights out of me. I'm like, whoa. So as I'm going to this meeting in my car, I'm thinking, this is not going to be good. Like, I couldn't prove it, but sometimes you just know what you know, because I've been doing this a long time. Like, when I started getting these like premonition things, like I got them in baby steps. And the first one I ever got, and I don't mind sharing it because it's kind of innocent. It's not, I think it was God's way of letting me know you really do have something. When I was younger, my favorite group was the R&B group TLC. So their first CD came out in 1992, and then the second one was 94. So that summer of 93 to 94, it was like one day I had this dream, and I actually seen the CD cover. It was called Crazy Cool. Now, anyone who knows music history, you know the actual CD was called Crazy Sexy Cool. And it ended up being, I think it sold like 10 million copies. It was, at that time, it was one of the highest selling CDs, and it was definitely TLC's highest selling CDs. So anyways, after I had the dream, me and my brother were walking, and I remember where I was at. We lived in Silver Meadows, and there were these two buildings, and we were going between them. And I was like, basically, TLC's next CD will be called Crazy Cool. He's like, you don't know that. How could you possibly know that? I'm like, I had a dream about it. He's like, okay, whatever. So when the CD came out, it was crazy, sexy cool, but I had said crazy cool, so I had missed it by one word, but I basically had the gist of it. And so when the CD came out, I was like, Mesa, you remember? He was like, you did say that. So the point of me saying it, of what I'm saying is, and then as time went on, I started getting these things more and more about all kinds of stuff. So I'm not going to get into it here. But pretty much when I get it, it's like I know exactly that's what it is. So anyways, I'm going to the meeting and I'm not sensing nothing. I'm not hearing nothing. I'm like, woo, not good at all. So sure enough, they did fire me or whatever. So it was like, I didn't have panic though, like a normal person would. Like I wasn't crying, I didn't have no kind of reaction. Because in my spirit, I felt like, even though I didn't feel nothing telling me I would be back like normal, like, oh, don't worry, you'll be back. I didn't feel it. It was like I still kind of knew it. So I ended up being out for 3 months without a job at all whatsoever. So I'm having all kinds of people in my ear telling me, if I were you, I would just get a new job. You should do this, you should do that. I'm hearing all these different things from people. But my spirit is not telling me like the same thing that, that everybody else is. My spirit is telling me like I need to just be patient and still have hope. So the first thing I did, I kind of handled my financial situation. So what I ended up doing is I paid the current month that was due, and then I paid the next one in advance. And then same with the third one, I paid that in advance as well. Then I paid 3 months of car insurance. So for those 3 months without working, I still had normal groceries just like normal. I still did stuff for my nieces and nephews like I always do. I did it a little bit less, but I still sacrificed and did it because I know like one time I seen my nephew at the library. And mind you, I'm not working. I don't know where my next money's coming from at all, but I seen him. He had rode the city bus. I couldn't really take him home, but I gave him $10 at the time. So, and this is not like bragging, but it's just making the point that if you keep your mind in a place of preparation, when tough times come, it's not as tough for you as it may be for someone else. And now this is what I want to get at again, talk about the stillness of a praying heart. A lot of people make the mistake that the only time they do pray is after the disaster has happened. So after something went wrong, now all of a sudden, God, what do I do? What do I say? Can you help me? Will you help me? All of a sudden. Now, but what I do with my life, I pray before something happens. So that's how, and you got to keep, life is about positioning. So if you keep yourself in the right type of place, even when bad things do happen, negative things happen, times of uncertainty come your way, being that you said a prayer before, like, okay, for instance, where I live at, I didn't just see something in the newspaper and be like, I'm going to live here and that's the end of it. It's a process. And this is even a testimony of me aligning myself up to be at the right place at the right time. The day that I was out looking for apartments, and this is a true story too. When I was out looking for apartments, me and my sister had went to like 2 or 3 complexes, and there were still like a couple more that I wanted to like see. So we stopped to eat. I've had my car for 12 years, so when we came back, the engine would not come on. So I asked my sister, I said, do you think like this is a sign that maybe, because I was living with my sister at that time, so I'm like, do you think this is a sign that I need to wait, or maybe it's not quite time to for me to move? And she said, absolutely. She was like, I wasn't gonna say it, but yeah, you need to still wait a little bit. This is not your time to move. I was like, okay. So I lived with her a little bit longer, and then I was talking to a coworker of mine, and I was asking him, like, do you know any a good place in Tampa? And he was like, not only do I know a place, I own a place, and you can rent it. And the price that he gave it to me at was, put it this way, where I live in Tampa, anywhere in Florida, if you're close by the water, you are going to be paying $1,300, $1,400. If you want something nice and decent, that's about the price range. So I don't want to tell all of my business, but where I live at is somewhat almost around